From the old, scarred plains of Tarkir comes the Mardu horde. Peerless in battle, they are the dragon's bane. The hunters reduced to the hunted, as their fearless Khan Alesha smiles at their death. And you too can unleash their fury. With Alesha in command, your foes and friends will be forced to flee to the hills. For no beast, nor human, nor dragon can escape the Mardu horde. Hello, I'm Model Omega, and today, for my inaugural Magic the Gathering video, I'll be highlighting my first ever originally constructed, and also my personal favorite commander deck, Alesha, who smiles at death, of the Neo Mardu horde. Alesha has already made a wicked name for herself in the Tiny Leader socket, but she can be just as effective in traditional ADH as well. On the surface, she's very subtle. A 3-2 first strike for 3 is not really much of a threat on its own, but where Alesha will really strike fear into your enemy's hearts is with her activated ability. When Alesha attacks, you can pay 2 hybrid white-black mana to bring in a 2 power or less creature from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, which presents more possible damage, but more importantly, lets you abuse enter the battlefield triggers. Got a troublesome creature to deal with? Go grab a Necrotal or Fiend Hunter. Need some more resources? The Sad Robot and Disciple of Bolas have got your back. Want tokens to fuel some sacrifice outlets? Bring in Siege Gang Commander or Beetleback Chief. The possibilities are immense. Because of the vast array of ways you can build decks based around this ability, the deck tech I'll be going over here is just a suggestion, and there are many opportunities for more budget or alternative builds. That having been said, I'll start off with just a handful of cards all Alesha players should be 99ing. Buried Alive is simply the best card you can possibly run in this deck. The ability to dump any 3 creatures directly to your grave is simply ludicrous when coupled with Alesha's ability. So it basically becomes a tutor 3 spell for 3. And one of those 3 should almost always be the Master of Cruelties. This nasty demon will drop an opponent's life to 1 if unblocked, and by cheating it into attacking with other creatures using Alesha's ability, you can kill a player just like that. Just be prepared for the possibility of retaliatory strikes from the rest of the table. Anyway, with those 2 out of the way, let's start with the creatures you'll be bringing for their value. As previously mentioned, Siege Gang Commander and Beetleback Chief make tons of tokens, either for defense or for the many sack outlets this build runs. There's also a Priest of the Bloodright to create big, threatening 5/5 flying demon tokens. Also shown earlier was the presence of Necrotal, which on ETB will bury a non-black, non-artifact Mook, and Fiend Hunter, which will stasis any creature. Though for commanders, most will likely just send them back to their zone, so for enemy leaders, this may as well be a Terminate on a stick. And for non-creature permanent removal, there's an Avalanche Riders for troublesome lands, and a Durgar Hedge Mage to potentially 2-for-1 an enemy artifact and enchantment. Value. To keep up with card and life total, we'll employ the commander staple of the Sad Robot, which can couple very nicely with a sack outlet like Disciple of Bolas. There's also Gary to reap the benefits of Drain and Gain, Mindclaw Shaman to shred enemy hands of instants and sorceries, and finally, the ultimate blowout finisher of Resolute Blade Master, which ETBs to give your entire field double strike for massive damage. This build also runs a company of non-ETB cards that still benefit from Alesha's recursion into combat. We already mentioned Master of Cruelties as a must-have, but similar targets are the Archetype of Finality to give all of your creatures Death Touch, Drana, Liberator of Malakir for her pseudo-lordship in granting +1/+1 counters to attacking creatures, and Serra Ascendant for straight-up 6/6 flying lifelink beatdown right out of nowhere. The remaining cards here you probably don't want to be attacking with, but can always be brought back with Alesha if you can just keep them out of blocking range. Mom is great to have around for her protection ability. Kiki Jiki can further abuse ETB triggers or just create additional attackers. Mentor of the Meek can act as more card draw. Karmic Guide is straight up repeatable creature recursion, especially with Felden of the Third Path, which can simply make a copy of anything in your graveyard. Contrasting all of these are the duo incarnations of Anger and Filth, which you will want to put into and keep within your graveyard, so they can grant your creatures haste and swamp walk respectively, the latter of which combos very well with the main Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth. Then there's the Sadistic Hypnotist, perhaps one of the most underrated commander cards ever. At sorcery speed, you can use the Hypnotist to sack any creature you control to make a player discard 2 cards. Think about it. You can Feldon a Karmic Guide, use that to bring back a Siege Gang Commander, and from just that, you can make someone discard 10 cards, and if you don't have any valid targets, you can just use the Hypnotist as a manaless sack outlet, of which it is not the only one in the deck. The last two cards to mention here are Murderous Redcap and Anafenza Kintree Spirit. The Redcap will usually shock and then maybe gut shot a target with its ETB trigger and persist, but the real fun comes in pairing it with Anafenza, which bolsters one every time you have a creature ETB. The two alone, with an infinite sack resource, spells infinite damage. And there's also Cathar's Crusade in the deck for an alternate way to pull off the combo. While 2 power and less is the core of the deck, there are a handful of creatures above that threshold, the most obvious of which is Revelark, which upon leaving the battlefield brings back any 2 creatures of power 2 or less, which can be downright dirty when combined with the Sadistic Hypnotist. There's also a Butcher of the Horde, which in addition to being another manaless sacrifice sink, is just a big lurking threat that can consistently give you life gain. And personally, no EDH deck is complete without one of the Theros Pantheon. Here, we have Erois, God of Victory, which gives all of our attacking creatures menace, in addition to granting them immunity to damage. Why not put it in? Obviously, a single Buried Alive isn't enough to get what we need in our hand or grave, so we're running numerous other ways to discard, draw, and otherwise get what we need where we need it. Faithless Looting is the obvious first pick. This Dredge enabler is also our enabler, and you can even play it twice. Diabolic Tutor is inefficient compared to Demonic or Vampiric Tutor, but it's miles cheaper, so you'll probably just want to roll with it. Consequently, Open the Armory, one of the absolute best new commander cards ever, is both very cheap and will let you grab any useful equipment or aura from your deck to your hand. Reforge the Soul is a straight-up Wheel of Fortune with a chance to miracle. And finally, this deck employs a lone Planeswalker assistant in the form of Nahiri the Harbinger, which can loot for days and also act as a versatile means of removal or potentially a creature or artifact tutor. Obviously, you can't just throw all this together without some actual removal spells, and in Mardu colors we have some spicy offerings. Crackling Doom will Chainer's Edict all opponents' biggest threats while also shocking them. Utter End and Anguished Unmaking are both instant speed exile spells for non-land permanents. And lastly, there's a Swords to Plowshares here, which is run instead of a Path to Exile because Master of Cruelties kinda renders enemy life gain meh. Now comes the subtle glue that helps your mad plans go off without a snag. Mardu Ascendancy helps you generate even more tokens just for attacking and can protect your mostly low toughness creatures from a Languish, Anger of the Gods, or Pyroclasm blowout. Attrition turns all of your creatures into Doomblades, Phyrexian Arena helps provide consistent hand advantage, and Cathar's Crusade can quickly make your board deadly through mass token generation. There's also a Vampiric Rites to get value out of chumping, Reconnaissance to allow Alesha and her recurred creatures to avoid harm, Dictate of Erebos to turn your mass sacking into huge field advantage, and an Unquestioned Authority to better allow Alesha to attack safely. For the Sutler support here, we have Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, and Whisper Silk Cloak to give targeted protection to important creatures like Alesha or Feldon, and in the case of the latter, it'll make the equipped creature unblockable. There's also an Expedition map to draw on just the right utility land you need, and a Skull Clamp, because of course a deck like this should have a Skull Clamp in it. And now we come to the engine of the deck, the Manabase. Thankfully, the most excellent professor of Tolarian Community College has a tricolor Manabase video that you can watch here rather than listening to me continue to ramble on, but I will make a few specific mentions for lands. Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth isn't just an excellent black mana filter, it will let Filth basically give all of your creatures unblockable. Chromatic Lantern is especially useful here thanks to the high average devotion of your spells. Vault of the Archangel can give all of your creatures Death Touch and Lifelink in a pitch. Opal Palace can give incidental boosts to Alesha upon summoning. Windbrisk Heights can allow for a surprise hideaway cast. And finally, Bajuka Bog is included for the incidental graveyard hate. And there you have it. With Alesha in this deck in tow, you too can experience the might of the Mardu Horde. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe. I do have other decks I would love to make videos on, so you can stay tuned for that. This has been Model Omega, and thanks very much for watching.